Nothing but agents in 2025, no matter where you go or who you are. Just like it was all Gen AI for the last 2 years, it's going to be agents for the next 2 years.
This episode is brought to you by Green Skies Analytics, an audit analytics service provider that works with internal audit departments that have data analysts and are still frustrated with trying to make analytics actually work, aren't getting the expected ROI, who can't break through the communication barrier between the analysts and the audit team, and those that need experienced direction for an audit analytics strategy and process. Those that feel like they've wasted time and money on trainings, aren't getting the value they want, not prioritizing the highest risk areas for the organizations, or have projects that seemingly never get completed. Do you deal with any of that? If you do, go to the show notes of this episode and click the Green Skies Analytics link, or go to greenskiesanalytics.com to schedule a call and understand how Green Skies Analytics makes analytics actually work for internal audit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audit Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Russell. Today on the show, we have John Thompson. He basically is the AI leader for Ernst & Young. So enterprise-wide AI. If you have some kind of LLM solution internally at your organization, John is the one that would basically built that, but for EY. And so as you might imagine, most of the conversation revolves around AI. 2025 is the year, I think John said 2025 and 2026, the years of agents. And so that's largely the entire episode. And so I feel like we're publishing enough agent content early on that you aren't tiring of it yet, but you soon will. If you're tired of AI already, if you're tired of hearing about ChatGPT or OpenAI or any other AI tools that are out there, you're going to get tired of hearing about agents very quickly. But they are mind-blowing, and they are going to make a legit difference in your organization and within your internal audit department. So, you know, in all likelihood, people are getting, very excited about agents. The folks in techs are going to stay, excited about it, but others are going to kind of go, okay, I'm tired of hearing about this at some point, whenever that is. Highly encourage you to keep going at it and get interested in it, because the same way ChatGPT and other LLMs and AI solutions that you're hearing about right now, and just the massive difference that they can make, this is going to be that times pick a number. All right, with that said, here we go. So especially given your position, I am extremely curious, any novel uses or creative uses, go-to uses, something like that the audience might be able to leverage relative to how you've used ChatGPT, Llama, Claude. The list seems like it's getting longer every time I ask this question now. But
it is getting longer. There's no doubt.
Anything LLM based, rather, that you've been doing lately that you'd want to share.
One thing that I like to use any of the LLMs for, we've had our hands on all of the ones you listed and more, is I always like to double check new cities I'm going to, or cities that I'm visiting or revisiting, like London and others. I always ask ChatGPT or Llama or whichever model, Mistral, whichever one I've got my hands on, to write me an itinerary for the time that I'm going to be in town. And it always comes up with interesting restaurants and bars and things like that. Not that I'm going to, use that itinerary, but it's generally pretty good for saying, oh, hey, have you heard about this Lebanese restaurant? Or have you gone to this Greek restaurant? Or, this new cocktail bar has popped up. So I use it as making sure that I understand the latest and greatest things in all the cities that I'm going to around the world.
I like the itinerary one. And what I'm thinking about adding to mine, now that you said that, is I like reading historical fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so to even say, I feel like the Da Vinci Code or something is what tops the, most historical fiction. Like that one's pretty high up there to go, hey, I'm going to Florence or wherever. I read this book, give me an itinerary that I would. So it like aligns, because I remember we went on this like Mediterranean cruise after a point, and someone told me to read Inferno. So one of the other ones that he wrote. And so I read it on the cruise. And so as we're like cruising, I was like, oh, I'm going to be in, Florence tomorrow. And so like, I want to go see this thing. But obviously like I didn't take very good notes. And so I'm sure a ton that I missed. So I kind of like that spin. I'm going to do that when we get done, just see what it comes up with. I had someone basically say this to me recently, and they said, "Hey, our CEO said go do AI." And so I know, like John, I know like audit isn't your background necessarily, and so if you could think about it from the CAE perspective, great, but that's fine if not too. Like we can just keep it at the executive level. Your CEO says like you're at a different company, they bring you in and go, John, go do AI. What do you do? Like, and as not detailed necessarily as you can get into, but as tactical, I think, so that the people listening can go, okay, this is kind of some set of a framework to follow here.
It's kind of interesting that you say that, because that's basically what they did 2 years ago when I walked into EY. They
Perfect.
said, hey, this Gen AI thing has exploded. What should we do? So, we went in and said, okay, we've got, we spent a lot of time with the InfoSec, risk management, data privacy, and legal teams, because we wanted to build something that would be useful for all 300,000 employees that could get their hands on it. So what we did is we got all those guidelines from all the governing functions, and then we built a tool that would allow people to engage with a large language model in a way that they couldn't make a mistake. They couldn't put in the wrong information. They couldn't use the information in a nefarious way. Well, if they tried really hard, they could. But generally what we wanted to do was give people an environment where they were safe. So what we found out was that we didn't lock into any one technology. We didn't lock into any one model. We wanted to be able to move with the models as they progressed over the last couple of years. So generally what you'd like to do is build an environment that's cost effective, that's easy to access, that allows your employees or clients or partners, whoever's doing it, to have a feeling of security, that they can't make mistakes. That's what I would tell people to do.
Got it. And when you said put in the wrong info, is that where you go like PII and that kind of more sensitive, confidential? Is that what you mean by wrong?
Yeah, in our world, in EY's world, our information is classified as C1 data. That's anything you can find on the internet. C2 and C3, increasing levels of privacy and security, and C4, which is PII, PHI, confidential financial information and things like that. So what I said to the teams was, we want to be able to put in C1 through C4 and be safe. So that's the way I think about it, is that, hey, anybody can put stuff in from the internet. That's, that's fair game for anybody.
Yeah.
But as you move up to those other levels, you want to make sure that your employees are, in a safe space.
Would you say that's maybe the number one reason for a lower than expected adoption rate, is kind of this fear of, well, even though my company built this thing, I'm terrified that if I put PII or something in there, that it's going to get loose and I'm going to get busted and get in a ton of trouble?
It's a real concern. I mean, and that's part of the reason, that's one of the driving forces why we built what we built, because we didn't want that niggling doubt in the back of someone's mind. Hey, I'm getting close to C4 data. Should I not do this? And in our environment, it's like, go ahead, put anything in there you want. It's all safe. So yeah, I think that's a real concern for people.
All right, so where are we headed? What's next? And to set that up a little more specifically, agents. Talk to us about agents. I feel like 2025 is going to be the year of the agent, with some of the announcements that came out recently, and then knowing what some people are expecting in 2025. To the extent, again, that you feel like for a bunch of auditors that are listening to this, what do you feel like they should know about agents? And even if you could just maybe demystify that a little bit. I know I've talked to some people and they go, it kind of looks just like an LLM. Salute, like I don't really get the difference between the two. So I think any kind of demystification, solid examples, things like that, I think that would be helpful also. But what are they? What's coming down? What are you expecting?
Yeah. Agents, you're going to hear agents, nothing but agents in 2025, no matter where you go or who you are. Just like it was all Gen AI for the last 2 years, it's going to be agents for the next 2 years. Agents are going to be a very impactful technology. You do hear from people that, hey, I can't differentiate between an LLM and an agent, and that's an issue. That's an issue for all of us. We need to help people understand the difference there. There will be large language models behind agents, but there'll be lots of other things behind agents as well. So really quick, I'll give you a fast taxonomy on what agents are. Simple agents are pretty much just like an LLM. You give them a prompt, they give you a response. It's pretty much prompt, response, prompt, response. The only difference really is that an agent can watch the environment. Maybe there's a filing coming up, or an audit requirement, or a policy, a filing requirement or a compliance need or something like that. An agent can watch that and say, hey, these things are happening, but we're not getting this step done, or it's not going to get done in time. And an agent can jump in the middle of it and proactively do things for you. That's a simple agent. Intelligent agents can do pretty much anything a person can do. They can buy a car, they can spend money, they can, they can bind you to a contract. Intelligent agents can do anything a person can do. And we're building those now. So we have simple agents, we have intelligent agents. We're recording this on December of 2024, so we have intelligent agents now. In the next 18 to 24 months, we're going to have something called polymorphic agents, which is a really weird word, but those are agents that build themselves. So you're going to be able to tell an agent, I want you to do this. And that agent will take the prompt and look across a marketplace of pre-built agents or building blocks and take those and assemble them into a new agent. Or if those don't exist in a marketplace, the polymorphic agent will build an agent for you.
Okay.
So it will start from scratch, or you could give it 1 or 2 steps, or you can do whatever you want, and it will go off and build it all. So in the next 2 years, that's what you're going to see transpire in the area of agents.
If we took your itinerary example and said, this is LLM itinerary, and put my itinerary together, which 3 years ago would have been just like the most mind-blowing thing ever to have seen that and gone, this is science fiction. Like, there's no way this exists in real life. But if we took that and said, okay, if we made it agentic to some degree, how would you like expand on that? What would your expectation of an agent that plans your itinerary for you? What would that do?
Yeah, the great thing about it, when people think about agents, they usually think, oh, it'll, in the travel context anyway, it'll book a hotel room for me, or book my airfare. And that's true, it will. But expand your thinking. So let's just say, you have an agent, it handles your travel, it does book your airfare, it does book your hotel rooms, but it also looks into, I'm a Hyatt person, Hyatt and American Airlines, that's where all my travel is concentrated. It'll look into my Hyatt account and say, hey, you've got suite upgrade certificates. Do you want to upgrade to a suite? Well, I will have already told the agent, if I have upgrade certificates, upgrade my room. So it'll do that proactively. Then you could say to the agent, you have access to my Teams messages, my email, my text messages, and all my social media channels. Look across all the people that I've been interacting with over the last 2 months, assess the conversations I've been having, determine which people I would benefit from meeting, and set up a breakfast every day with the person that's the number 1 priority, number 2, number 3, number 4 for the 5 days that I'm going to be there. And then in addition to looking at that, I know that I want to have breakfast and I want to have dinner, and I want to have 5 to 6 meetings each day, and make sure that my schedule is full. And if someone drops out, find the next available person and put them in. So your agent will be in the background for that whole time, booking your meetings, booking your travel, if you want to go to plays at night, tell it, hey, I want to go to at least 3 plays while I'm in London, and I want to have a Pepsi with ice at every intermission. And it will do all those things for you. So it's kind of like, when you've been traveling, we've all been traveling, we've gone to bed at 10 at night, 11 at night, and 5 minutes later, your flight's been canceled, and you sleep for 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever, you get up and all the good seats are gone. Well, your agent would have known a minute after that flight was canceled and would have rebooked you on the next flight. So when you wake up in the morning, it just keeps managing your life. We're all individual personalities. Some of us are more, risk prone, some are more risk averse. You can set up your agents any way you want. So, you could actually put in your agent that says, look, hey, you can only use agents from these marketplaces because I trust them. Or, I only want the compute cost or the general expenses with running this agent to never go over $50 a trip. Or you can never spend more money. You can never spend more than $5, or you can put airfare on hold, but you can't commit me to it. I have to approve it. So you can actually set these up in any way that you want. So if you want your agent to just go ahead and do something like refresh your Whole Foods or, Market Fresh or Fresh Direct, order every week, it'll do it. But if you wanted to, give you all the options for diamond earrings for your wife or partner, but you don't want it to buy them, you could say, give me all these options and then I'll decide which one I'm going to buy. So you can set them up in any way and you can have ultimate control over what they do.
Got it. What skill set is going to be needed, and what would be the expectation of, let's say, a team of 20 auditors who has like a full-time data analytics person? If you were working with them, you would go, okay, I want you to spend X amount of time now on agents, roughly, or
Yeah.
percentage of time. Like, how would
Yeah, it's a
you
great
prioritize that?
Yeah, it's a great question. In the dark book you can see over my shoulder, the building analytics teams, I talk pretty passionately about that structure you just talked about. You've got subject matter experts, in this case, they're auditors, and then you've got a full-time data science person. Or if you've got 20 auditors, you probably need 2 or 3 data scientists, to be honest, to get the mix right. And the way I would see it is that the auditors would probably spend between 10 and 20% of their time working with the data scientists, who would be working 100% of their time to build Gen AI solutions and agentic solutions. So the data scientists would be building out the infrastructure and the agents and all that kind of stuff. And the auditors would be there to quality check what is being done. Just like you said, when the data scientists could build something and they say, hey, if it watches and sees there's a compliance requirement that's going to be triggered that needs to be satisfied in 3 months from now, then the agent will kick off and start to do all this work. But the data scientist would build it so that the agent would start and finish its work and submit its report to the government auditor or the government regulator. And probably the auditor would go, whoa, 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 no. You can have it run all the way up to send me the report. I need to review it. I need to make sure it's accurate. I need to make sure that the formatting's there. I need to make sure that the data it's going to be submitted is correct. So data scientists, we tend to build things that we think, oh, well, this is a good idea. It'll make life easier. But then other people come in and go, you can't take it that far.
Yeah.
You got to stop 2 steps before, and we need to put a human in the loop at that point. So I'd say, auditors and other subject matter experts, probably 10 to 20% of their time. Data scientists and more analytically oriented people, they're dedicated.
Significantly more. Okay, got it. So I'm going to throw some terms out there that I would feel like most people don't know, which is completely fine. But if we talk RAG, LangChain, Neo4j, tokens, like all this stuff the past 2 years, where it is not impossible to keep up with, but I mean, I talked to a lot of folks like yourself and even you all, it's similarly, it's like, it's pretty tough to keep up with because it's changing so fast. So if we looked at 2025, and let's say without any foundation, RAG, Neo4j, Vortex, all that kind of stuff, what is the terminology? Is it just agents and polymorphic agents? If you said like, these are the terms you probably need to know going forward, would it just be those two, or there's some other ones you feel like people need to have some understanding of?
Yeah, all those terms that you laid out before, yes, you need all those. That's going to stay in your vocabulary for probably forever. The thing that is coming up that most people are not talking about so far is we've talked about large language models. We get those. We understand those. But then there's small language models and domain language models. Those are probably new terminology, new terms to your audience. And what that means is that, large language models will always be around. OpenAI, Vertex, Bedrock, all Mistral, all those companies, Cohere, they'll have large language models. There's no doubt about it. But what we have found, and many other companies have found too, is that we can build our own language models. So, large language models are in their own universe. Then we come down to a smaller area. We have small language models or domain language models. So companies will be building those. So, you'll have the LLMs, you'll have the DLMs and the SLMs, and then you'll have even smaller models, and they will all run in an ensemble of models that is being orchestrated. So another term that you're going to hear is the orchestration, orchestrator, those kind of things. So what we're building is we're building environments where people are putting in prompts, or agents are monitoring environments, or both. And those prompts and the information is taken to an orchestrator who then decomposes it into individual work items. And then the orchestrator sends it off to all the different models that are downstream. So you're going to have, large language models, domain language models, small language models, orchestrators, and ensembles of models. So those are probably the terms that you're going to hear most frequently as of.
And then you did mention the book. I know you've written a handful of them. If you were to say, given what's going on in this day and age, if you recommended one of your books, what would that be to, let's call it chief audit executives or other executives?
Yeah, I've written 4 books so far, and I'm writing a 5th one right now, which we'll talk about in a second. But of the 4 books that I've written so far, I would say for a chief auditing officer or a chief financial officer, the dark one over my shoulder, Building Analytics Teams, is the book to read. Because what that book does is it gives you, as we were been talking about, the vocabulary and the framework to have a conversation with someone who's on the technical side, either a head of data science or chief AI officer or chief data officer. That book gives you everything you need to know to sit down with them and have a productive conversation about how you're going to bring AI and analytics into your organization.
Okay. Well, I feel like that set us up perfectly for a segue. Tell us about the new book, John.
Sure. Thanks, Trent. Absolutely. So the new book is called, the working title anyway, it has been approved, it's called The Path to AGI. And AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. So if you listen to Elon Musk or Sam Altman or, their ilk, they say that AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, is here today. That's not true. It's not here today. And I have people ask me all the time, so is Terminator coming? When is Skynet going live? All these different kind of things. My answer is 2250. So we're somewhere about 8 generations away from having AGI. And people say, oh, that can't be true. They're saying it's here today and you're saying it's 8 generations away. It's probably a definitional issue. When I talk about artificial general intelligence, I'm talking about you and I are having a conversation and we're having a back and forth and we're changing topics and we're having epiphanies and we're having insights and a shared understanding. I want to have that same conversation with a computer. And I don't think we're anywhere near doing that.
As you said that you made the Terminator reference, and I don't know how realistic that fear is for a lot of people. I'm sure, statistically, some people have to, probably have panic attacks daily with every new AI announcement going, yep, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And if this isn't your area of expertise, that's totally fine also. But I was just thinking, like, in terms of robotics, don't really hear a ton about, like, whatever they're doing. Boston is, you see the dog do some new things every, year or so, and you go, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. Is robotics something that's it's still maybe on the rise, or is it just even probably investment dollars are going, no, we're going the AI route? What?
Yeah, they're inextricably linked together. Humanoid robots, tracked robots, all those different kind of things are an outlet for AI. So I generally work in the enterprise space with auditors and, supply chain people and pricing and marketing and sales and executives. We don't really think too much about robotics, but, when I do get out of my, enterprise space and look out into the consumer world, absolutely. AI is going to drive robotics, and robotics is huge. It certainly doesn't get all the headlines that AI is getting right now. But if you look at Boston Dynamics, many companies in China, different kind of robotics are really racing forward. So AI is going to be in those robotic environments and those humanoids and tracked and all the other kind of flying drones, all different things, undersea drones that we see too, flying drones and swimming drones and all that kind of stuff. So they're almost inextricably linked, as I said.
Got it. And I know you've been on hundreds of podcasts, and I know there's certain podcasts that I listen to, and I think, man, I wish somebody would ask me that question, regardless of the topic. Even, it might even be philosophical or something. And even if I was on like another audit podcast, I go, man, I wish somebody would ask me this really philosophical question because I think I have a good answer for it. And it's a really tough question, I feel like, especially kind of on the spot to ask you. But is there a question you feel like, I wish somebody would ask me this question so I could speak to this thing, even though it's outside of, the AI and tech world?
Yeah, generally, people, I tend to like to talk about the metaphysical or the existential and all those kind of things. So usually I would like people to ask me questions about ethical dilemmas. Where is this going to take us? Is this something that we really need to be concerned about? Is AI going to hurt or help society? I tend to think those conversations are kind of fun.
Let's have that conversation then, because we have a few minutes left. What
Sure.
is your opinion on that right now?
It's always interesting. I grew up watching, Colossus and Terminator and all the dystopian movies about computers. And the one thing that I always thought to myself was, why don't you just unplug it? It's just a computer, just
Yeah.
go in the back and take the plug out. And then there's always, well, there's fail-safe power and all this other kind of stuff. The thing that people really don't consider, because it's not their area of expertise, and I get that, is that these are just programmable systems. They're impressive programmable systems, but they're just programmable. So, if you go in and lay down all these policies and all these procedures and all these ethics and everything that you want the model to do, it'll do it. I mean, these models are not made in a way that they're supposed to go off the rails. They're not here to hurt us. Of course, you could program them to be nefarious. You could program them to do bad things, but you have to do that. These computer models are really not anything unusual.
Yeah.
They're just like accounting systems. It's just you're giving them different instructions. So I really don't worry about, I don't worry about the dystopian future with agents and models and things like that. I just don't see that as something that we couldn't control quite easily.
So I feel like similar to how you watch Terminator and you go, well, just unplug the thing. Do you watch Lord of the Rings and go, hey man, just get on the Eagle, fly that thing to the volcano and drop it in there? Like we could knock this
Same
movie out
thing.
in 5 minutes.
Thing. I'm like, yeah, give the ring to the eagle and tell him where to drop it.
Yeah.
And you're done.
We're done. Yeah. Save us all about 6 hours. All right.
It wouldn't be as fun.
Yeah. John, it's been fantastic. Thanks a ton. I know I learned a few things. I'm sure the audience did as well. If you wanted to leave something with the audience, whatever you want to leave the audience with, it can be AI related, it could be work related, professional. If you have an anniversary coming up and you're like, hey, happy anniversary to, whoever, and you send this episode to them as a weird anniversary gift, that would be fine too. But I want to give the floor to you, close us out. What do you want to leave the audience with?
Well, if you're really interested in AI, please take a look at, my LinkedIn profile. And if you want to learn a lot about AI, link with me. I don't link with everybody. If there's people out there that want to sell me wealth generation, schemes or franchising operation, don't bother. Don't waste your time. But if you're interested in AI and analytics, link with me on LinkedIn. And I will take a moment to say, happy anniversary, Jennifer. It's our 30th anniversary in March.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Audit Podcast. Whatever platform you're listening on right now, I'm sure there's a subscribe button somewhere, so please hit the subscribe button there. If you're listening through iTunes or Spotify, feel free to go give us that 5-star rating. It only took me about 16 seconds to give myself a 5-star review, and it really helps to get future guests to come on the show, so we'd really appreciate that. Lastly, be sure to check out the show notes and follow us on all our social media channels on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on TikTok. Also, if interested, please sign up for our weekly newsletter from the Audit Podcast. Thank you all. Have a great one.